There is a kind of glow that no makeup can paint, no status can provide, and no filter can replicate. It is not born in the mirror, it is forged in the soul. A true glow-up begins not on the surface, but in the shadows of the inner world. The journey is not toward what you appear to be, but toward who you truly are. We are born into a world that teaches us early how to hide. As children, we learn to present versions of ourselves that please others, our families, our peers, our culture. We are praised when we behave, when we conform, when we silence parts of ourselves that feel too wild, too sensitive, too real. And so we begin to wear masks, not out of deception, but out of survival. These masks become identities: the good girl, the strong one, the achiever, the helper. But behind each carefully crafted role lies a quiet grief, the grief of a self unlived. To glow from within, we must confront the reality that what we show the world is often not who we are. And this confrontation takes courage. It is not easy to peel away the mask you've worn for years, especially when it has won you love, attention, or protection. But the mask, no matter how polished, becomes a prison. It keeps us distant not only from others but from ourselves. It hides our essence, dims our fire, and muffles our voice. The soul does not shine through performance. It shines through presence. It comes alive when we choose truth over pretense, when we allow ourselves to be seen, not as we wish to appear, but as we truly are. There is a strange liberation in this nakedness. When we stop managing perception, when we drop the need to impress, we make space for authenticity to rise. And authenticity carries its own kind of magnetism. It draws people in, not to an illusion, but to a raw and luminous truth. This shedding is not a one-time act. It is a continual death and rebirth. Each time we grow, a new mask may try to form, seductive in its promise of control. But the one who seeks to glow from within becomes vigilant. She notices the mask forming and gently removes it before it hardens. She reminds herself that her light is not something to manufacture, it is something to remember. In this remembrance, something extraordinary happens. Confidence is no longer rooted in how perfectly you play a role. It is rooted in your willingness to be real. Joy arises not from external applause, but from inner alignment. And your presence, unfiltered and unmasked, begins to touch others in ways no performance ever could. The glow becomes inevitable because it is no longer borrowed. It is yours. There is a paradox buried within the soul. The very parts of ourselves we are most afraid to face are often the ones that hold the key to our deepest power. We are taught both subtly and directly to reject our imperfections, to hide our anger, suppress our desires, deny our sadness, and cast out anything that doesn't fit the polished image we've built. These disowned parts don't disappear. They retreat into the unconscious. They become the shadow. The shadow is not evil. It is not our enemy. It is simply everything we have refused to see, feel, or integrate. It holds our repressed emotions, unclaimed potentials, and truths we've buried out of fear. And the longer we avoid it, the more it silently governs our lives. We project it onto others, see it in the people we judge, and encounter it in the cycles we repeat. It whispers to us in moments of rage, shame, insecurity, or self-sabotage, not because it wants to destroy us, but because it wants to be acknowledged. The glow from within does not arise from denying the darkness. It emerges through the courageous act of meeting it. The woman who glows is not the one who has erased her shadow, but the one who has befriended it. She does not run from her wounds, she listens to them. She does not pretend she is without jealousy, fear, or grief. She leans into them with compassion and curiosity, asking, "What have you come to teach me?" Every aspect of the shadow carries within it an invitation. Your rage may conceal your capacity for truth-telling. Your envy may reveal a longing for a life more aligned with your soul. Your shame may show you where love has been absent. When these fragments are welcomed home instead of cast out, they bring their gifts with them. And suddenly, what once made you feel broken becomes the very source of your depth, your empathy, your creativity, and your inner glow. To walk this path is not to chase light while avoiding the dark. It is to understand that the dark is the womb of transformation. The glow that arises from this process is not artificial. It is not fragile. It cannot be dimmed by rejection or failure, because it was never dependent on outer validation in the first place. It is a radiance born from wholeness, from the union of what was seen and unseen, accepted and denied. This is the sacred truth. Your light does not come in spite of your shadow. It comes because of it. You do not become luminous by being flawless. You become luminous by being real. The shadow, when embraced, becomes the soil from which your inner brilliance grows. It is not your ruin, it is your revelation. In a world obsessed with flawlessness, symmetry, and control, beauty has been stripped of its depth and reduced to surface. We scroll through curated lives, filtered faces, and bodies molded by trends, not to feel connected, but to compare, to measure, to self-judge. The standard of beauty has become so externalized that it breeds a quiet war within. We begin to believe that we must fix ourselves to be worthy of love, of admiration, of belonging. But the truth is, no amount of external perfection can heal the inner fracture of self-rejection. Real beauty does not shimmer from polish. It radiates from integration. It is not found in the erasure of your so-called flaws, but in the harmony of your inner contradictions. True beauty arises when a person becomes whole, when they stop editing themselves to fit into a mold and start accepting all that they are. Light and dark, soft and strong, sacred and scarred. There is something undeniably magnetic about someone who is unapologetically themselves, who wears their wounds as wisdom and their quirks as marks of authenticity. Wholeness means reclaiming the parts of you you've disowned, the ones you were told were too much or not enough. It means no longer slicing yourself into fragments to please others. It is the deep work of calling back your exiled emotions, your childhood dreams, your buried desires, and welcoming them home. When you do this, you begin to move through the world differently, not from a place of performance, but from presence. And presence is the most powerful form of beauty there is. When you are whole, your energy is not spent on pretending. You are not constantly shifting to earn acceptance. Instead, you stand rooted in your being, grounded in your own truth. You laugh more freely, express more boldly, connect more deeply. People may not understand what it is about you that captivates them, but it's your inner coherence, your self-acceptance, your quiet refusal to abandon yourself. That is the glow they feel. That is the beauty they see. And so, the glow-up we need is not one of altering our appearance, but of deepening our presence. Wholeness is not always glamorous, but it is always stunning. Because nothing is more beautiful than a person who has stopped running from themselves and finally turned inward, only to discover they were never broken, only incomplete. And now, complete, they shine. In a time where everything is measured by visibility, followers, likes, recognition, we are seduced into believing that our glow comes from being seen. But the soul doesn't hunger to be seen, it hungers to matter. And nothing nourishes the soul more deeply than meaning. Meaning is the hidden thread that gives substance to our steps and significance to our suffering. It is not a surface decoration. It is the light that radiates from within when one knows why they walk the path they walk. When your life is aligned with meaning, you carry a different energy. You glow not because everything is perfect, but because everything is connected. Your challenges are not random, they are purposeful. Your pain is not a punishment, it is a portal. Meaning transforms the mess into message, the chaos into coherence, the wound into wisdom. It doesn't erase struggle, it redeems it. And when you begin to live with that deeper why, your eyes change. Your voice changes. Your presence becomes charged with something unseen but undeniable. There are many who appear radiant on the outside, dressed in success, adorned in admiration, yet are hollow within, for they have not yet found the thread of meaning. And there are others, quieter, less polished, who glow with an unshakable intensity, because every step they take is anchored in something real. These are the people who walk into a room and shift its atmosphere. Not because they are trying to be impressive, but because they are deeply in touch with themselves. You do not find meaning by chasing what the world celebrates. You find it by listening inward, by asking the difficult questions. What breaks me open? What calls me forward? What truth is mine to carry, even if no one claps? And when you discover it, when you commit to it, your life becomes infused with a light no trend can imitate. Your glow is no longer ornamental, it is elemental. It is the fire of purpose, burning quietly beneath every action, every choice, every breath. Meaning does not shout, it whispers. It doesn't always lead you to comfort, but it will always lead you to yourself. And when you live from that place, you become a mirror for others, not of perfection, but of possibility. You remind them, not with words but with presence, that the most powerful glow is not styled. It is earned through depth, alignment, and devotion to what truly matters. Within every person resides a sacred polarity, the union of energies often labeled as masculine and feminine, active and receptive, doing and being. These forces are not about gender, they are archetypal aspects of the psyche. One is the sword that cuts through illusion, seeks order, pursues goals. The other is the chalice that holds mystery, nurtures intuition, and flows with life. Most live fragmented, leaning too heavily into one while abandoning the other. But the glow that emerges from within is not the product of dominance. It is born of harmony. The inner marriage is the moment these forces cease to war within us. It is not about balance in the mechanical sense, but about honoring both energies as sacred and necessary. When the inner masculine is wounded, it manifests as overcontrol, rigidity, aggression, or apathy. When the inner feminine is wounded, it shows up as chaos, self-abandonment, emotional suppression, or a lack of trust in one's own knowing. To glow from within is to heal these wounds, to allow the masculine to stand not as a tyrant but as a protector, and the feminine not as a victim but as a source of wisdom and power. When this union begins to take place, a transformation occurs. The inner masculine builds the structure needed for the feminine to dance freely, and the feminine, in turn, breathes life, creativity, and vision into the masculine's form. It is a dialogue that softens the soul, yet sharpens the spirit. You begin to make choices not out of compulsion, but out of clarity. You are no longer constantly reacting. You are responding with grounded presence. You are no longer stuck in striving, nor lost in surrender. You move with purpose and grace, with fire and fluidity. This sacred union brings a powerful sense of inner wholeness. You become your own anchor. You stop seeking externally for what you now embody within. The feminine no longer searches for a savior, because her own inner masculine holds her. The masculine no longer dominates or withdraws, because he is softened and inspired by his inner feminine. Together, they create a center within you that cannot be shaken, and it is from this center that your light radiates. Not a light that flickers with the approval of others, but a steady flame born of integration. You become magnetic not because you try to be, but because your very energy speaks of completion. People feel it in your silence, in your gaze, in your presence. They may not be able to name it, but they sense it. A rare kind of glow, the kind that only emerges when someone has made peace within themselves. This is the hidden path of the inner glow. Not more effort, not more achievement, but deeper integration. Not more performance, but more presence. You don't shine because you've added more. You shine because you've united more of who you are. The inner marriage is not a final destination. It is a lifelong dance. But every step you take toward it brings you closer to the brilliance that was always meant to be yours.